And our story begins tonight on the devastating wildfires that engulfed Maui, with the governor reporting a grim rise in the death toll. Amidst the aftermath, brave residents sort through rubble to reclaim their possessions. From above, aerial views illuminate the scale of destruction, entire blocks reduced to ash. The business district lies in charred ruins, a harrowing display of how the blazes swiftly engulfed this community. At one point, trapped motorists deserted their vehicles in bumper-to-bumper traffic, desperately fleeing the inferno. Some places transformed into a refuge for evacuees, a haven for those who have lost everything. Volunteers work tirelessly to provide essentials: food, water, diapers, crucial supplies for those in need.
I'm a little worried because I have a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old. I have dogs and just the essentials for everybody, and I just hope everybody out there is doing well.
They lost everything. Everybody lost everything. We don't know how we feel. I don't know how you guys supposed to feel.
What do you guys need right now?
Food, gas, water, anything, clothes. Yeah, people out here, no more nothing. They no more they no more clothes, they no more nothing out here. They need stuff out here. Supplies, hygiene.
I know a lot of people just wanting to get out there and help and do what they can, but not much we can do right now. So
all the families that lost people, their homes, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to do something like personally, you know, like
it was so close. And so many things could have gone wrong, but for us, we lost a house, but
And amid the upheaval, thousands find themselves stranded at the airport, striving to escape the unfolding chaos and reunite with loved ones in the mainland. And now we turn to our bureau chief in Hawaii, Alfred Acenas. Alfred.
Aloha, Alma. It's good to see you again. Unfortunately, in less than ideal conditions, as we still have to do our due diligence
That's true.
in updating everyone.
Yes, that's true.
As to the ongoing development, I still have my trusty tablet with me, keeping myself up to date, because I can write something and after that, we get more updates since then. So here's what we know so far.
Go ahead.
67 is the current confirmed count of lives lost after Maui authorities continue to sift through the rubble. Now that they have these so-called cadaver dogs, I think they've been flown in from the mainland to be augmented to the existing teams that are on the ground. So that is the current count, and speculations are still there that the number will continue to rise because there are still dozens, scores more unaccounted for. Now, as to the fire itself on Lahaina, the number now is 85% contained.
Good.
Another development is that as of 12 noon local time, per the order by Governor Josh Green, the main highway that runs through Lahaina, Honua Pi'ilani Highway, it's a north-south throughway, became accessible for those who want to return or go to the towns north of Lahaina, which includes Kaanapali and Kapalua, I think. However, we've gotten a couple of sources telling us that the police has reclosed that highway as of 4 p.m. And the reason being that there are residents or travelers who are going to the areas that are still restricted, that have not yet been cleared by the fire department. Kaya kulang-kulang pa rin tayo sa mga traffic checkpoints doon sa mga karatig bayan outside of the business district of Lahaina. So more to follow on that. Other fire-related developments is that now that we have hundreds, if not thousands, thousands have arrived on Oahu, hundreds have availed of the services at the Hawaii Convention Center. At the same time, and then Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi has waived the 30-day minimum rental period requirement for those coming from Maui and Big Island seeking temporary shelter. Especially for those, halimbawa, those who wish to fly further back to the mainland or their final destination, or to some of them are still waiting on making contact with friends and loved ones here in the state. So those who've been evacuated have been given some flexibility and not to worry about rental periods. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you give us an insight on how residents are coping and what support systems are in place for them?
So the first support system that these folks affected on Maui, even Big Island, you have these evacuation shelters operated by volunteers from the Hawaii Red Cross. These centers, these shelters have also served as a communication center to establish contact with loved ones and friends who they may have lost contact with. So the message to everyone, those who are looking for each other, go seek services from the shelters on Maui and provide the information needed so that they can help by contacting the other shelters, see if they have the contact information of the people that they're looking for. That's the current mitigation right now.
The devastation.
Until
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so
No, until more cellular signal capacity, gets put on the ground in Maui, so that cell service can resume somehow.
the devastation caused by these wildfires, as we saw, is truly staggering. Could you share with us the extent of the destruction that has unfolded in Maui?
Okay, let's focus on the historic town of Lahaina because that's been headlined. Lahaina, as I said, was the historic old capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii in the 1840s. It was, or it is, in the National Register of Historic Places. So protected siya. And within the town, you have these landmarks. Okay, and it's also a hub for arts and also a draw for tourists that are coming from Ka'anapali in the north and the resorts from the south of Maui, as well as elsewhere. Now, that's an economic driver right there for Maui, which draws an average of 3 million visitors a year. That's before the pandemic. And they were actually on the road to recovery this year. So now the tourism industry on the island is pretty much come to a grinding halt in order to help the residents recover, reunite, and eventually rebuild. And what the governor and the other leaders are envisioning, Lahaina will become something different when it gets rebuilt again.
Okay.
So that's how significant it is.
Okay. So, since our last update, the situation has evolved into something really. We could really see the devastation throughout. Can you share an insight on how this evolved really?
let's go back to the beginning of this week, Sunday, Monday.
Yes.
There was already a high wind and red flag warning throughout the state because of Hurricane Dora that was traveling south of us. That's about 900 kilometers, almost 1,000 kilometers, which for some of us is far away. But it's a Category 3, Category 4 storm. So the main concern was winds, flying debris. There was already a lot of advisories and instructions to secure your personal properties and avoid areas where flying debris can be imminent. May mga apoy din na sumiklab sa iba-ibang isla, including right here on Oahu.
Really?
And,
In Oahu?
as expected. Yes, in fact, not far from here, there's this regional park in Waipio, not far from us. It's a small one, but that was something that first responders were anticipating. Now, let's go back to Maui. May mga apoy na, which is typical around this time of year. But the concentration, a lot of it was in the valley area. I wish we could show a map of Maui.
Yeah, we will.
Gitna yung patag, it's a valley. So, daluyan ng malalakas na hangin. Now, remember, there are less than 300 firefighters assigned to Maui. And Maui is a bigger island than Oahu that has almost 1,300 firefighters. So you had these firefighters that have a lot of land to cover. May mga apoy na or sunog sa malapit sa Lahaina, I think in the higher ground. They were able to extinguish those, but they have to respond to another fire in another side of the island. What happened was because the strong winds were still present, meron tinatawag nilang embers. Yung abog, yung bumabaga pa rin, meron pa rin spark. And a lot of them blew in certain areas where there were fire vulnerable, including the old town of Lahaina. So once that flared up in old Lahaina, it was so fast that you could see in the destruction. There were cars that were on the road in an intersection. So that meant that they had to leave those cars and make a mad dash into the ocean. As the lieutenant governor explained in her press conference, it was completely unexpected.
Yes.
Because we never expected that destruction to happen so quick. So just to address these comments about they weren't prepared enough. Yeah, everyone was prepared, but the resources on the ground were so limited, and the conditions were very unpredictable.
Which brings me to my next question. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because there were questions about or inquiries about why the sirens were not activated. Could you explain to us when do you use these sirens and when do you?
These sirens are primarily to warn those in Hawaii of any impending floods like tsunamis. Yun ang nakasanayan mga taga rito. Floods, brought about by hurricane or tsunamis. So with that mindset, it was difficult, for the state and the local government to comprehend that they were actually going to deal with fire, which calls for a different kind of evacuation. um, and the proper response to it. So, and then realizing that the highway that everyone had to depend on for evacuation was itself clogged up and engulfed in flames and smoke. So now you have an issue of infrastructure dun sa West Maui. So the siren, yeah, could have helped. But as far as the phenomenon that took place, it was so fast, the sirens would probably not have helped at all.
I also heard that there were bodies floating in the water. Is that true? For those who jumped into the water because they had to avoid the flames?
So the Coast Guard managed to rescue as many as 14. How many of the confirmed dead were those from the water? I think right now we're still waiting on the breakdown of the fatalities, whether they were discovered on the ground or in the water. We can tell you that those who decided to jump into the water from, where there's a boat harbor nearby, the boats themselves caught fire.
Oh.
Some of them had fuel. Guess what? When the fuel with fire goes into the water, now the water is on fire. So, you got these worst case scenario for those victims. It's unfortunate. However, yes, it was good that they thought about getting into the water for safety. But given the fact that Lahaina has an active harbor, so there's a lot of boat traffic. With that, now you have residual fuel products. No matter how small it may be, it's enough to ignite and cause a fire on the surface. So.
So, and President Biden's approval of a major disaster declaration is, of course, a significant step. Can you explain how this declaration is now expected to assist in the ongoing recovery efforts now? I know there are still some fires going on, but they are 85% contained, as you said.
The assistance from the federal government to whatever already existing at the state and local levels will always be of help to accelerate the containment, to be able to recover, unfortunately, recover bodies and effects, and to be able to rebuild infrastructure and different self-sustaining capacities. Now, let me describe how the federal government works as far as providing assistance. If you remember, and I know we reported this, in the aftermath of the 2011 Japan earthquake and tsunami, the 2013 Typhoon Haiyan/Yolanda there in the Philippines, and then of course you have earlier this year Typhoon Mawar on Guam. You have the federal government already postured to provide assistance. And the reason is that Hawaii itself has pre-positioned stocks, like lighting equipment, power generating equipment, medical supplies, non-perishable food, anything that the area of devastation needs. Okay? Ngayon, the way it works as far as the manpower is that the president, through FEMA, appoints a federal coordinator whose sole mission is to work alongside the governor, in this case, Governor Josh Green. And the gentleman appointed by President Biden is a gentleman, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, Mr. Maona Muipira. So he is going to act on behalf of the federal government, FEMA, to identify the requirements by the state government to provide assistance to the ongoing efforts on Maui and even Big Island. Now, within that structure, the bulk of the federal assistance has traditionally come from the Department of Defense, because the military has equipment, has personnel to build capacity to be able to reconstruct whatever needs to be rebuilt, and as well as critical equipment like your Chinook helicopters that carry these water bladders to be able to provide more fire containment to areas that may be hard to reach. So that right there, are the critical assets that will be of help to the state. So yeah, that's how it's been. And every time there's another disaster, of course, there are lessons learned, and there are new practices which hopefully will work in the next disaster response.
Alfred, with the emergency proclamation discouraging non-essential air travel to Maui, how has the local airport been affected? Are there any logistical challenges in terms of evacuation efforts or the transportation of essential resources to and from the island?
So the current procedure right now, you've got two commercial airlines operating out of Kahului, the big airport out of Maui, Southwest and Hawaiian Airlines. Now, there are messages from each of the airlines' websites that advise prospective travelers that the travel to Maui has been restricted or limited, and there are ways for travelers to be able to make adjustments to their travel plans without incurring any additional expenses, similar to Hawaiian Airlines. Now, the priority right now, as it began, I think on the 9th of this month, the priority of travel of travelers from Maui to Oahu, in this case, are those who need to be evacuated. Okay, both tourists and residents who may have lost already everything that they have on the island. And then the priority going the other way are your essential equipment, military and critical personnel to assist in the containment and the recovery efforts. And then, of course, once everything is in place, then any restrictions might eventually be relaxed. But we can anticipate that regular tourist travel to Maui may be, severely limited at this time. Granted, the tourism industry in Hawaii is not going to shut down because we still have the other islands to cater to.
True.
Maui is the one exception that requires right now resources to rebuild itself.
Alfred, for our viewers who are not only concerned about the situation but also have families within the Filipino community, what kind of support and communication channels are available for them to stay informed about their loved ones' well-being amid this extraordinary times?
We gotta thank social media and the technology that we have right now. Although the signal capacity on Maui is still limited, once that improves, we can expect increased communications, from and to Maui to everyone else in the world. Now, going back to the Filipino community, you touched on this in your report last night that the consulate was supposed to do an outreach.
Yeah.
They're gonna, right now, we haven't heard anything new. So what's going on right now is you have these community groups, you got these faith-based groups that have their own network and means to communicate with each other. So right now, until there is an increased way of communicating, that right now is what's working. But of course, better services are needed. Let's put it that way. The shelters by the Hawaii Red Cross can only do so much. But as time goes by, we can expect communication to improve, not just within the Filipino communities, but all the communities, that have an attachment to the island of Maui.
All right. Thank you very much, Alfred, for that update, and you take care.
And I hope we can meet again
Yes.
on a more hopeful and positive note.
That's
This
true.
is Alfred Acenas from Hawaii, because we live in extraordinary times, Alma.
Indeed. Thank you
Aloha.
very. Aloha.